So you want to add a hair light to your photos, maybe like this one. But which modifier should you use? A 7-inch reflector, a white umbrella, or maybe a strip softbox? How bright should it be? And where exactly should you place it? In this video, I'm going to show you how each of these common modifiers performs as a hair light, including power tests, placement strategies, and tips to help you make the right decision based on your subject's hair, your style, and your artistic vision. So why use a hair light in the first place? There are two reasons. First, to preserve detail in their hair. Second, to create separation from the background, especially when the background is dark or similar to the same shade as your subject's hair. Sometimes we use a bright hair light to mimic sunlight in a backlit scene, but most of the time, especially if you're going for a soft window light sort of look, the hair light should be fairly subtle. Before we get into the tests, let's go over some basics that apply no matter what modifier you use. Most of the time, I place my hair light about 3 feet or 1 meter above and behind my subject, angled down about 45 degrees. That gives me nice coverage on top of their head and their shoulders, and it usually keeps things fairly even and also keeps the light out of the frame. As for how I mount it, that depends on the space. You can place it just peeking over the top of your backdrop on a standard stand, or use a C-stand with a grip arm. You could also use a junior boom, or in my case today, I'm using a large Studio Titan double beam boom. Now the hair light that's in my home office here is actually mounted to a wall plate, and it is a 2-foot long NAND light. But in this video today, we're going to be talking about modifiers that we're going to use for flash. Now, if you don't have a light meter, you can absolutely just turn the light up or down until it looks right. But my goal today is to teach you both the numbers, but also how to know what actually looks right. During all of these tests, I'm keeping my camera locked at f8, and the main light is also locked in, metering at f8 on the subject. The only thing that I'll be changing today is the power of the hair light. To do that, I'm using my Sekonic 858 light meter, which is going to measure and allow me to fine-tune the light from my hair light in one-stop increments. So you can clearly see how each power level changes the image. These examples will give you benchmarks that you can recreate, but the real goal here is to train your eye so that you can match your brightness to your intent. Let's go ahead and talk about exposure, or more so, the relationship between the main light and the hair light. Here's a general guideline for how bright your hair light should be relative to your main light. For that window light sort of look, general photography nowadays, I would say that with black hair, your light should be about 1 stop below your main light, but it could be even with your main light if the hair is really matte. For brown hair, I usually keep it about 1 to 2 stops below the main light. And for blonde hair, I keep it about 2 to 3 stops below the main light. If they have gray hair or they're bald, you're probably going to skip the hair light altogether, but please don't skip the video because you're always going to end up with subjects who have hair. If you're going for that backlit sunlight sort of look, or maybe you're shooting in black and white, then your hair light is going to be about 1 to 2 stops brighter than it would be if you were going for that window light sort of look. Let's start with a 7-inch or 18 centimeter reflector. The reason why I picked this one is because you might already have one. It probably came with your light. Now this is a hard specular source. That means that it's going to define every little flyaway. The light is going to look crisp, and the results are going to be high texture and edgy. This is a great choice if you're using hard light for your main light source. But if you combine a hard hair light and a soft key, things are going to start to feel a little mismatched. That's because one of your modifiers has lower highlights and texture, and the other one, it's just the opposite. Let's look at some test images. During this test, I'm going to leave my light exactly in the same place, so it's going to be the same distance every time. I'm going to use my light meter again to measure and see how bright the light is. Now it's going to give me numbers between 2.8 and f11, and that just means that if I stood behind him and pointed my camera at the back of his head and set the camera's f-stop to the meter reading that I'm going to give you, then the hair would be properly exposed. So this is a little hard for some people to understand sometimes, and it's because they think that 2.8 is really bright and f11 is really dim, but it's actually the opposite. 2.8 is really dim. That means you've got to open up your lens a lot in order to get a correct exposure. And f11 is really bright, meaning that you've got to stop it down quite a bit to make sure that it doesn't get blown out. So let's go ahead and look at the images. At 2.8, it's not really doing much. At f4, there's a bit more definition. At 5.6, things are looking pretty good, and this is probably right for Jaime's hair, considering that we're going to have our main light at f8. With the flash metering at f8 and f11, it's starting to take over the shot. Next, let's look at some frames with the main light turned on. You'll see no hair light at all, then 5.6, f8, and f11. Unfortunately, I don't have test frames with the hair light metering at 2.8 and f4 with the main light turned on. To me, the light from this modifier is just too isolated, and there's a little too much texture and specularity compared to the main light. So there's a mismatch. I would, however, use this modifier if I was doing a high contrast black and white look, but not paired with a huge softbox. Next up, a 49-inch or 125-centimeter white umbrella. This is often the first soft modifier people buy, and you can use it as a hair light too. But there's a problem. Umbrellas are big, and when you place them behind your subject, they often overhang the subject's head, which means that you might end up lighting the hair, the forehead, the nose, and even part of the face. And don't even get me started about how it can light the backdrop. That's actually what happened in a few of these test shots. Let's go ahead and take a look. I tested this umbrella where it metered on the back of the head at f2.8 through f11. And again, if I had to pick, I'd say that 5.6 is probably the most balanced option for Jaime. But watch what happens as the exposure goes up. It starts lighting areas that we don't want lit with the hair light, and now it's taking over the mane. Sure, you could use this modifier intentionally from the top down in order to get that look. Maybe you want it to look like a skylight or something, but most of the time, you're probably not going to want that look, and so you have to be very, very careful when you use an umbrella like this. So if you're starting to see how these little decisions can make or break your portraits, and you want a structured way to build that intuition, then you might want to check out the Academy with John Gress, my online members-only learning platform. Members get access to longer form tutorials than what you'll find here on YouTube, a guided curriculum, and 2 live Zoom sessions every month where you get to interact with me directly, and I can answer questions, critique your work, and help you through problems that you're having and grow. If you want to check it out, there's a 30-day free trial, so just click on the link below, and while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and sign up for the bell. Now let's test the strip softbox. This is the modifier that I use the most for my hair light. The one I'm using here is 1 by 3 feet, or about 30 by 100 centimeters. And what I like about it the most is that it paints a really nice, subtle, even highlight and increases detail across the top of the head and the shoulders, which is in stark contrast to what you get from the 7-inch reflector, which really feels like you're blasting that highlight on there. So just think about a softbox feels painted on and a 7-inch reflector feels blasted on. This one that I'm using right now has a recessed face with a fabric lip, which helps keep the light off the backdrop. I'm not using a grid here, but if you're in a tight space with maybe a white ceiling, or your subject is really close to the background, or your light is really close to the background, a grid will help a lot in order to keep that light on the hair and not going anywhere else. Let's walk through this test. At 2.8, it's barely noticeable. At f4, it's talking a little bit more. At 5.6, it's looking nice and balanced, and this is the one that I ultimately chose for Jaime's portrait. At f8 and f11, it's the same story as before. It's starting to feel more like the sun outdoors rather than a subtle highlight. This modifier definitely gave me the best results, and I paired it with an Electrum 190cm indirect Octabox, added a V-flat for fill, and we ended up with a well-balanced, polished portrait. Yeah, you're looking great. Sorry, I'm thinking about these videos of these photographers going, gorgeous, gorgeous. Yes, give it to me, give it to me. Now here's a quick side note. If you're working with someone who has a lot of curly hair, you might choose to move the light forward a little bit to light more of the texture and to create less of a halo effect, especially if you want those curls to pop. But just be careful, if you push it too far forward, it'll start to light the forehead and the nose again, and that's when it starts looking like it's taking over the main light, which is not at all what we want. When I captured my final image with Jaime, I was using a main light, a hair light, and a fill. And that is 3-point lighting. I actually made a video that's all about using 3-point lighting and even 4-point lighting, and I'll put it up here if you want to watch it next. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and sign up for the bell. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon.